Hey, everybody. Welcome to HPI's Commercial Real Estate Podcast. This is Rich Bouchner. I help lead investor relations for HPI out of our Austin office. And today, we're lucky enough to have Jeff Pace, who leads tenant rep for us. Jeff, thanks for taking the time to be on the podcast.
Glad to be here.
Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to sitting down and chatting with you a little bit. I'm going to give just a brief overview of your illustrious history in real estate and with HPI. Hard to believe you've been doing this for almost 40 years. You've negotiated leases representing over 15 million square feet in value, over $2 billion. That's billion with a B of real estate. Jeff is overseeing the acquisition disposition of over 3 million square feet of office projects valued at over $600 million. The development of HPI's 2.5 million square feet of Class A office projects and provided asset management oversight for 6 million square feet of office projects. Again, thanks, Jeff, for joining. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
And, you and I were talking before we went live. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what tenant rep means. Would you mind just kind of walking us through that?
Yeah, so tenant rep, whenever a lot of people think about HPI, HPI is a big full-service real estate company, and many people think about office buildings or industrial buildings, but HPI has a lot of verticals. We have the office business, the industrial warehouse business, self-storage, senior living, multifamily, and I lead our group that's HPI Tenant Advisors. And all we do is represent and advise companies on their real estate needs. It could be buying, selling, leasing, disposing of an asset, but we exclusively represent that client. The clients are our fiduciary. We're not trying to fill up HPI buildings or anything like that. But we do use our full service company to assist our clients in whatever needs they may have.
Got it. Thank you. That's helpful. I think it's a nice kind of overview of what it means to be a tenant advisor. So what got you into real estate 40 some odd years ago? Yeah.
I still feel like I'm a young guy, and I used to be the young guy. Now we have a bunch of young studs and that are in the business that work with me, fortunately. But I got an internship in college at UT, and it was a real estate company. It was a great market, and it was exciting, a ton of great people, and I just got hooked. So, from after graduation, went right into commercial real estate, and I've been here ever since.
And have you been representing tenants for the entirety of your career, or did you start out doing something else?
Early in my career, and through a significant portion of it, I was on the owner, the landlord side. And so what's interesting about that is it made me understand and have a good sense of the way owners think. What do they like? What do they not like? Right. What's important to them? And so it's been really beneficial with representing tenants that being able to take that knowledge from the owner side and then help our clients, whether it's strategy, negotiation, how to get the best deal done.
So, is it unique to have somebody sitting in your seat that has that 360-degree view?
I would say it's not typical in the market. For example, at other companies, I developed office buildings. So this last year, we had a client that actually needed to build a facility. And so I was able to bring some unique perspective into that situation because I'd actually built buildings before.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? You understand from the ground up and kind of all the agita that goes into creating a building. That's cool. Can you just talk about the current state of Austin's market from a tenant's perspective? We're hard to believe that COVID is in the rearview mirror for a couple of years now, but I would imagine our market from both a tenant and an owner's point of view still feeling the repercussions of COVID.
Yeah, it is. In terms of the office market. Sure. So, one thing is the headlines. You read the headlines, office is dead, people aren't coming to the office, they're giving away office buildings for free. That type of thing is out in the market. And in some cases, that's true. There are some levels of distress in the market, but it's a very situational market. On the one hand, buildings that are well located, new, and have lots of amenities, there's actually strong demand. But buildings maybe that don't have so many amenities, or they could be distressed because they have a loan expiration coming up or a large vacancy, there's some big trouble. But when you look at the headlines and when you look at the overall vacancy, which is approaching 30%, that would normally indicate, lights flashing, tenants go make deals. You can get the deal of the century, and you can still get terrific deals right now. It's a great time to be a tenant in the market, but it's very uneven in terms of, how much distress there is from building to building.
Sure. So is a big part of your role and your team's role almost being a counselor to your tenants, really kind of setting expectations, providing a sounding board for what they think they can get and what they can actually get, and kind of level setting reality based upon the market and competition?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I mean, just like I mentioned the headlines, well, most of our clients are reading the headlines. And so when we determine with them that they come out to market, initially many of them will say, we're going to get the best deal in 30 years. And depending on, where the client, wants to locate and what type of building they want to locate in, they'll get an amazing economic transaction, but it may not be the expectation that they want. So, a lot of it is expectation management and just educating them on the market. After all, we're the experts. We have to give them the knowledge that we have to make the best decision.
And how long what's the typical cycle from the time, you or somebody on the team makes contact with a potential client to actually, get them across the finish line? Is this a multi-year process, a couple months?
It's all across the board. It just depends. There could be something where maybe you have a smaller tech company, for example, that they've been in a WeWork or co-working, and they're saying, we need real office space now, and we need it tomorrow. So we'll go get that done. It'll be quick. But for the most of the time, it's more than, a year in terms of start to finish on a process, especially considering if it's a big construction-related project. That alone, the planning and permits and budgeting and construction could take more than a year.
And I would imagine it takes a while for a potential client of yours, for them to decide they want to go with HPI, right? There's a lot of trust involved. You're helping them figure out what they're going to do for the next 5 or 10 years as far as office space or industrial space is concerned. So how long does it take, if somebody's coming to the market, doesn't know HPI, doesn't know you or Case or somebody else on the team, does it take a while to really build that trust up where they say, okay, you're our guys and we're going to...
Yeah, it can if it's a formulaic kind of a pitch process where 4 groups are invited and you go through the, presentation process. But I would say that most of our business is not that way. Most of our business is because we're out in the market. Those people may or may not be in our ecosystem, but we get referrals or we'll ask one of our clients that they may be connected to someone. And so most of the time we're not doing that. Most of the time it's through, deals that we've completed before or clients that know us that would tell the CEO that's moving here from Chicago, oh, by the way, you need to work with these guys.
And that's a great way to build a business, right?
Right.
Referrals and trust.
Yeah, and so the time frames, it's very random.
Got it. That makes sense. How are the challenges for tenants today different than they were before COVID, when they're out looking for space?
Yeah. I think the 2 biggest things are for a certain group of tenants, like small to mid-sized tech, that their situation is they have fully embraced a hybrid model, meaning they may be coming to work 2 to 4 days a week. Big tech and normal corporate and professional, they're pretty much coming back to the office. Maybe a little more relaxed on their policies, but this mid-size and small tech are still trying to figure it out. And so the challenge for them is they know they want an office, they need an office, but they work differently, and each tech company works differently. So how do you configure that to make it really productive and efficient? And oh, by the way, they would like once a quarter for everybody to show up. And then what do you do?
How do you do it with space, right?
So how do you really get your space optimized for the new way you're going to work is a big challenge. Then the other one is just the cost of construction. Just construction inflation has gone crazy, and any company doesn't like to come out of pocket. Many landlords though are providing record concessions and tenant improvement allowances to narrow that gap, but that it is a big challenge just being able to come out of pocket for construction costs.
So in this current moment in time, who has more negotiating power, the tenant or the building owner?
Clearly since COVID, the pendulum has swung and tenants have the power right now. Demand went way down. It's now kind of picked up a little bit, but quality tenants out there, especially larger size quality tenants out there, have a tremendous amount of leverage. And landlords are willing to, do what they can to kind of make those deals. Yeah.
Do you think the pendulum comes more towards the middle over the next 12 to 24 months, or does it stay as it is where the tenants have most of the power?
Yeah, I would say that in general, tenants are still going to have a lot of power in 12 months and probably even beyond. But we do see some kind of green shoots of the market improving, of leasing coming back. So, and it'll be also very situational. There are going to be buildings that would, fall over themselves to attract a tenant, and other buildings that are going to be they're willing to kind of wait until they, have a tenant that may meet their situation a little bit better.
Got it. That's interesting. Are there any common mistakes that you see tenants make or misconceptions that tenants have when they're out in the market looking for space?
That can be all over the board too. I think the first thing is you just have to, like we talked about earlier, manage expectations the right way. But the two things maybe, one is self-serving, and that is if they don't hire a broker, like us. I've seen tenants that have, we call it going direct without a broker, and they talk with the landlord, and they're focused on maybe one or two things, maybe a rental rate or some concession. But I've seen also the result of that, and they take advantage of.
Because they don't know what they don't know.
Well, think about it. They're in the market doing something like this once every 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. This is what we do every day. 24/7, 365. So I would say not starting early enough with missed expectations, and then also not using some good rep.
And so that kind of segues into something else I would imagine a lot of folks don't understand or have an answer to. When HPI works with somebody, who pays our fee if we're representing a tenant?
Yeah, the landlord pays the fee. So there's not going to be a line item on the tenant side saying you're paying, you've got to pay this broker. So, in many ways we're compensated on contingency. If a transaction occurs, then we're paid.
So I don't want to speak for CEOs, but I would imagine if you're coming into a market that you don't know well, or even if you do know it well, you're really kind of hamstringing yourself if you don't work with somebody to help you find space. Especially if you're not paying for it. It's coming out of somebody else's pocket.
Yeah, that's right. And I would say it's really more the exception than the rule that they're representing themselves or not using a broker. Most of the time, there's some type of representation.
Got it. What is HPI's differentiator? My guess is it's relationships and experience and depth of knowledge to the market. We've been doing this for a long time, but if somebody knows, if it's a referral, that's one thing. But if you're talking to somebody who doesn't know us, how do we differentiate ourselves from some of the other guys who are working Austin right now?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're very intentional about bringing high level of expertise. I know a lot of people can say that, but we bring a high level of expertise, and we bring a high level of energy, and we bring a high level of creativity. And we really view ourselves more as a partner. And so as part of that, we understand our tenants' businesses. That's a big part of what we do.
Right.
So that we're not just a service provider, but we're somebody who gets their business, who gets them. And as a result of that, we're able to really craft the type of terms and conditions that help support their business.
What's our longest standing relationship with a client?
It's as
Probably decades, right? In
yeah,
some
oh yeah,
cases.
it's as old as as the company, right? It'd be 30 plus years.
And how cool is that, right? I mean, you grow up with a company, you get to know them, you see their succession plans, and you talk about adding value. When you know somebody for 3 decades, you can really help anticipate where they need to be over the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think one of the other things is our clients end up becoming our friends most of the time, and we really enjoy getting our clients together because our clients end up helping each other. And so the HPI ecosystem is very unique. It's an intangible. It's kind of hard to say what is the value to the person that comes into the ecosystem. But if you talk to anyone that's in it, they say, yes.
That's interesting.
We got a lot of value being in this ecosystem.
So I know we do some pretty cool events for our clients. Has that always been part of how we operate, or is that something that you brought over when you came on board?
No, it's always been that way. I mean, our culture is, we are butts in seats. We're grinders. We're working hard, but we also have a lot of fun. We like to have fun, and that's just part of our life.
Right.
Just part of life in our culture. We're going to work hard. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Yep.
We're going to, do lots of different types of things with our clients.
And I think that helps us get to know our clients and probably builds loyalty, which is good for everybody. Is there a specific example you can offer about how you or your team has added value to a tenant that maybe was having a tough time finding a space or finding the right space?
There are a lot of examples. I mean, every deal, I expect that my expectation for my team is that we need to add value, every day.
Every single day.
On every deal, on just how we respond, what type of strategy we have in place, et cetera. So, I don't know if there's one. I mean, we had a client a year or two ago where it was complicated because it was a disposition of a campus headquarters, which is not easy. And then then there had to be a relocation for a headquarters into a different environment in a different submarket, and just tying that together in the right way. And when the economic environment was a little weird,
right?
That was something that was I think a great result and provided great value to the client.
And that talks, I think it talks to kind of the 360 approach that HPI can bring to a client's situation, right?
Yeah.
We know buildings, we manage buildings, we lease buildings, we develop buildings, we can help with a campus, we can help. And you and your team, all of us, have a lot of resources to draw upon.
Right.
And that's, if you're a potential client, that to me is very powerful.
Yeah, and I'll pull from those resources all the time.
Yeah, you're not just getting Jeff and his team, you're getting Jeff and HPI and the rest of the team. When you're looking for, and the HPI environment, as you said, we're grinders, we like to have fun. I think it's a real team-based environment where I've never had anybody not say, sure, Rich, I'll help you, or what do you need? When you're looking for young guys or gals to bring into the business, are there any common traits that you look for, and when do you know that somebody really has that it factor, whatever that might be?
Right. So I would say, in terms of one of the things that stands out at our company, is that many of the people here were competitive athletes, and not just in college, just maybe they were great high school athletes, and so you have that competitive drive.
Right.
The other thing is we'll often know someone that knows that person to get some insight, but sometimes you don't know until you kind of you give them a test run,
right,
and see if it works or not. The number one thing for us is culture and fit, and you got to fit, and you got to be able to understand what our culture's like, and then but there are some basic things, just no entitlement. Lots of hard work,
yep.
Smart people, and And we do tons of intentional training.
Sure.
We also work in teams intentionally in the tenant advisor side. I may be working with one of our younger people in the office. So, you just have different ideas. I may think I know everything, but I don't. But I know where some potholes are. Another person may have other ideas. So we try to be real intentional, not just in real estate and other things too.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
But I'm encouraged by just the quality of the young people that are coming out. I mean, super smart, talented, and they just need the training.
I see the same thing. Like when I look at like a 22-year-old and compare myself at that age, I barely knew which way was up.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're coming through and they get it, they understand it, they've got poise. It's a whole different level of preparation.
Yeah, for sure.
Than when you and I were kind of coming out. How long, when you're just staying on this track of kind of younger folks in the early stages of their career, I love this saying, I'm an overnight success. It only took me 15 years to become one. Do folks typically hockey stick? Like when you see somebody, when the light bulb goes off, is it boom, and then the relationships fall into place and they start winning bigger assignments, or does it kind of happen like this? I mean, what's it look like when you look back at somebody's career and you say, wow, they're awesome at what they do, but this is the path it took for them to get there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the early stages, of just learning the business by default, you're just learning the business, right? You may be on a team and, making a good living and that type of thing. But, once you really kind of, quote, get it, then that is an inflection point
right.
in someone's business. But the market also matters. Are we in a good market or in a not so good market?
Yeah, right.
I mean, our people typically do pretty well even in down markets. And I think on average, we're considered kind of a boutique shop, that our revenue per broker is higher than typical.
Right.
But having the right platform and the right team, and if you're in the right market, that's when you really get the hockey stick change.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody for any career, if you come on board during a down market, that's where you learn the most.
Yeah,
it's challenging, it's difficult, but if you can get through 2 or 3 years of like, oh my God, I'm never going to do a deal. Right. Once the world starts to turn, you've learned a lot more than you realize.
Yeah, that's right. If you can make it through this, then what happens when it's really good?
That's exactly right. Any emerging trends that you're seeing in Austin that you think tenants who are looking for space over the next couple of years need to be aware of?
I think, like I mentioned before, the whole the idea of how do you design your space, depending on how you're working. Yep. If you are working in a hybrid environment, what is the right configuration, and can there be some flexibility built into it?
The flexibility is going to be interesting, right? To your point, you have some companies where 2 days a week, others 5 days a week. Sometimes they just want folks in once a quarter.
Yeah.
I don't know how you solve for that. That's a challenge.
Yeah. Or if they're doing that and then they decide, oh, guess what? Like Dell and Amazon and others said, okay, everybody's coming back 5 days a week.
That's right.
Then what do? Well, maybe in the lease you have to have some optionality, to grow, rights on space, expansions, that kind of thing. So just the space configuration's a huge thing. The other thing is just the condition of the market and some of the ownership. You really have to understand what is going on with the building,
right.
What is going on with, you may have a proposal and you can get money to build out the space, but are there really going to be other strings attached to that? So really understanding what is going on with the landlord, with its lender, and what's its status, I think is huge. So that's not a new trend. We always, have that type of information, but today especially, I think it's as important as ever.
Yeah. I mean, kind of circling back around to what we started talking about, there's a lot of distress where the building itself might be great, but you don't know one might not know what the financials are, right?
Right.
And that's leaning on somebody who understands the market. So it's a beautiful building, but if you look at their balance sheet, maybe we don't want to look at that building. If we do, let's go in with our eyes wide open. Any final pieces of advice or wisdom or thoughts that you want to leave on the market, on your career, on what it means to do tenant rep, on HPI? Any closing thoughts?
No, I mean, look, it's just it's great, being at a place like HPI. And, I want everybody on my team, tapping their toes coming in the office. And I tap my toes coming in the office. And so it's just a great environment, a great group of people. And knowing that you just can have all the resources and help that you need. And, if anybody needs any help with the real estate, you got to call us.
Well, that's a great way to end it. What's the best way for folks to find you? Go to the website or email or?
Yeah, probably just our website. You can find out all about us. It's the easiest way.
And your email is pace@HPI?
pace@hpitx.com.
All right. Jeff, thanks for the time. I really enjoyed it. And thank you, everybody, for listening to Jeff and me talk a little bit about real estate in Austin.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Rich.
You're welcome. Thank you.